Hey guys, welcome back. If this is your first time here, my name is Shane Taylor. I'm an Irish street photographer based in London. This channel, Framelines, is a place where myself and Josh Edgoose, who's another London-based street photographer, we chat about our work, photography that inspires us, techniques, gear, that kind of thing. So this is another gear-based episode where I'm going to take a look at a camera which could debatably be seen as a poor man's Leica, but I think it's much, much more. That camera is the Konica Hexar RF. So a couple of months ago, I got a bit sick of manual exposure on my Leica M7 after shooting a lot of color film at the time and getting really inconsistent results because I was guessing exposure. And with certain types of color film like Kodak Vision 3, you can start seeing color shifts if it's over or underexposed. But I still loved every other aspect about the M7. I love the rangefinder focusing, the size, the weight of the camera, the viewfinder. So I started looking for an M-body rangefinder with a meter. And the only real options I came up with were the Leica M7, the Zeiss Icon, and the Konica Hexar RF. This camera is 20 years old. It was introduced by Konica around the same time as Leica's M7. It copies the M mount system, so any Leica M mount lens will fit on this. And Konica launched with their own selection of lenses which were based on Leica designs. And from what I hear are really excellent lenses, very, very sharp with great build quality. I hope to pick one up at some point, especially the 50 f2. It looks like a really great lens. So before we get into what I like and don't like about this camera, I want to show you some photos I've taken with it. These were all taken in London and Helsinki last year. So what do I like about it? If I'm honest, the first thing that appealed to me about this camera was the price point. It was £550 sterling when I first picked it up, and that's less than half the price of an M7 or a Zeiss Icon. And for that price, you get a lot of really great features. The build quality is excellent. It feels solid and weighty, like a Contax G2, which I understand a lot of the parts in this are from the G2. There's nothing about it that feels plasticky or easily breakable, and the top and bottom plates are made from real titanium, which you can honestly kind of feel in the weight and kind of heft of the camera. Just feels solid, like any kind of really good mechanical camera. The OVF is excellent. It's big and bright. It has a really kind of well-defined rangefinder patch, which is really easy to see. I think it's up there with the Leica viewfinders, if I'm honest. It's maybe not quite as good as the M2 or M3 viewfinders, which are basically the most perfect ones that have ever been made. But I rarely have any issues focusing with this. And I love the kind of the design that they've taken with the viewfinder, in that it's very easy to see the frame lines. It's kind of minimal and neat and just well designed. And one of the main things, I guess, is that it has metering, so I don't have to think about metering all the time like I did with my M2. It's got auto exposure metering and auto lock metering. The auto lock is really useful because I can just lock on the dark areas of the scene or the shadows and expose for that. And that gives me kind of a good overall exposure. So once I've got exposure locked in, I can just recompose and reframe from there. It's also got exposure compensation, so it's easy to adjust for any issues that you might have with a metered camera. Sometimes it can underexpose if you're shooting into really bright light, but you can adjust for that very, very quickly just by moving this dial. The shutter speed goes as high as 1/4000, which is super fast for a camera this old. I'm not sure if I ever really need 1/4000, but it's nice to have as a backup if I'm shooting in really bright sunlight, and if I've got fast film in the camera. Like sometimes you might have ISO 800 or even ISO 1600 or 3200 film in a camera and end up shooting during the day. So just having that kind of headway of a really fast shutter speed can be convenient sometimes. Just a nice extra to have. And another nice extra is, you know, it's fairly minor, but a film window. Being able to see what film you have loaded in the camera, I just really like that. I wish it was on all cameras, because I can't tell you how many times I've put film in my M2, shot half of it, and then come back to it like a week or two later. And because I just wasn't arsed to note down what film was in it, or put a sticker on it, or put some kind of label on it, I just forget what film's in it, and then I might shoot at the wrong ISO speed, and you know, my film's a bit fucked up. And another nice convenience is that it has DX coding, so you can put film in the camera, and because it has DX coding, it's going to read that on the film canister, and it's going to know exactly what ISO speed to set your camera to. And all of these kind of little conveniences just overall make it a really just lovely camera to use. So if you do like that kind of rangefinder experience, but you want something that's a bit more convenient, or you're a bit maybe intimidated by using a fully mechanical M2, or even an M6 can be kind of intimidating to use. So if you want that experience, but you want something that's a bit more convenient, a bit easier to use, I would definitely recommend this camera. But you know, however, saying that, there are some issues. They're not major, they're not really big deals, but they are there, and some other people kind of experience them too and talk about them quite often. So I guess the first thing would be the noise, maybe. So it is noisier than a Leica. It's got a leaf shutter, so that's quiet, but followed immediately by the shutter is the wind-on sound of the electronic motor winding on film. And that's a bit loud, especially if you're on the underground, or if you're trying to take a candid photo very close to someone, they're going to notice it. So it sounds like this, which, I mean, it's very fast, but it is noticeable. It's a lot more noticeable than a Leica. So if that's a problem for you, then it's probably not the right camera for you. For me, it's not really that much of a big deal. Another thing is it won't work without batteries at all. If you run out of batteries with this camera, it's useless. It won't take any photos at all. So that can be a problem, and then it's quite difficult to find the batteries. You can order them online. You might be able to get them in a Boots or a Chemist or something like that if you're lucky, but they're definitely not a common battery to find. But I don't think that's much of a big problem. I just carry around spare batteries with me, you know, as I would with the digital camera. It's not a huge problem, and the batteries are so small, it's no extra weight to carry around. And because it runs on batteries, that means there's a lot of circuitry inside this camera, and that could easily break or burn out. It's 20 years old at this stage, and it's not very easily repairable. So there is that kind of added anxiety about owning a camera that could break, and then there's just no way to fix it. But other than that, I can't really think of anything else that I don't like about this camera. I kind of see it as basically an M7. I wouldn't say it's a poor man's M7, because it's got those kind of extra convenient features. And I think overall, I think it just makes it into a really great rangefinder experience for people that aren't kind of hung up on owning a Leica. And another thing is, I think it just looks gorgeous. I think it's a really beautiful looking camera. I think it's so well designed. I love the titanium top and bottom plates with the kind of black matte finish, and the name itself, Hexar RF. It's like a death metal group or something. I think it just looks so cool. So yeah, that's the Hexar RF. If you have any comments, any questions about this camera, drop a comment down below. If you have any questions about the channel or anything you'd like to ask either one of us, just drop us a comment. You could also send us a DM on Instagram. My name is Heroes for Sale. You can find me there. Josh is spicy.meatball. You can find him there. You can see more of our work there as well. So yeah, that's it. That's the Hexar RF. Like, subscribe. We'll be back next week. I think we're going to take a look at some photo books. We both actually picked up Melissa O'Shaughnessy's Perfect Strangers photo book, which is amazing. So we're going to take a look at that maybe in the next video. And hopefully, you know, with lockdown lifting in London over the next couple of weeks, we'll get to be out a bit more and do more kind of GoPro videos and just take more photos. So that's hopefully coming up soon. And until then, yeah, I'll see you next time.